And certainly one of the partners that are most important and most critical to the hospitality and tourism industry, of course, is the airline sector. And therefore, we're delighted to welcome Willie Walsh, the Chief Executive Officer of the International Airline Group and also Chairman of the London Chambers of Commerce. Willie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to have been invited here in my dual capacity, particularly to address you in my role as the President of the London Chamber of Commerce. Now, a famous professor of linguistics on his first day of term pointed out to his new students that it was common in most languages in the world for a double negative to make a positive. But there was no known language anywhere in the world where a double positive made a negative, until the Irish guy at the back said, "Yeah, right." I'm going to come back to that later on. Now, we seem to be quoting famous authors, so allow me to make the Irish contribution. George Bernard Shaw said, "If history always repeats itself and the unexpected always happens, how incapable is man of learning from experience?" So let's hope we don't fall into that trap and that we learn from the experience of 2012. And let's again indulge ourselves a little and reflect on what a fantastic year it was. I think the flawless Diamond Jubilee celebrations and the hugely successful London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games portrayed this city and this country in a way that few could ever hope for. It was by far the best marketing campaign a city could ever hope for. And with the £9 billion marketing campaign, for that's what it cost to run the Olympic Games, London Did It is a simple but a very powerful message that must not be wasted. There are plenty of opportunities ahead, and you've heard some of the speakers refer to them already. The recent Visit Britain growth strategy for inbound tourism, and indeed the BHA's own growth strategy, highlights the potential benefit for our economy. You've seen the figures. Tourism contributes over £115 billion to UK GDP and supports over 2.6 million jobs today, with the potential of significantly increasing the employment in the sector. And never has there been a greater opportunity to attract tourists and business to London and to the UK. The Olympic marathon route, for example, showcased the best of London's landmarks and generated increased interest in this city. To support this, the former Culture Secretary, the Right Honourable Jeremy Hunt MP, committed to increasing Chinese tourist numbers by focusing the Great Britain campaign on China, improving visitor visas and increasing flight connections between China and Britain. However, more can be done, and indeed more must be done, to support the tourist industry in London. The capital acts as a major gateway for international business and leisure visitors to destinations right across Britain. But obstacles like air passenger duty, the complex visa system, and squeezed airport capacity, particularly in the southeast, stand in the way of achieving the goal that has been set. Now, I thought I'd just read briefly from the recent World Economic Forum Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report, because there's some very significant positives in it. The UK is ranked 5th in the world, but don't get too complacent, because we are behind Switzerland, Germany, Austria, and Spain. But let's read what it says. It says the UK moves up 2 more positions since the last edition of the report to reach 5th place this year. The country's travel and tourism competitiveness is based on its excellent cultural resources, ranked number 3, with many World Heritage cultural sites, a large number of international fairs, and strong creative industries, all ranked in the top 10. The country has benefited from 2 important events in 2012, the Olympic Games and the Diamond Jubilee, although the outcome is not yet fully reflected in the figures, so there's more to come. The UK has leveraged the preparation of these events in terms of tourism campaigns, generating interest in visiting the country and reinforcing their already solid ICT and air transport infrastructure, ranked 10th and 5th, respectively. 5th in terms of airport infrastructure, air transport infrastructure. The generally supportive policy environment, ranked 8th, encourages the development of the sector, while the country relies on an excellent human resources base. And we've seen that in terms of the games makers again today. However, on a less positive note, the United Kingdom continues to receive one of the poorest assessments for price competitiveness, ranked 138 out of 140. And in part, this is because it has the second highest tax rate on tickets and airport charges worldwide. Only one country has higher than us, and that's Chad. Now, they say if you snooze, you lose. And there's probably no better example of this than in the air transport industry, my own, where the traditional powerhouses of the US and Europe are under threat from countries where governments provide the right environment to allow the industry, air transportation, and tourism to flourish. And I would highlight countries like the Gulf states and China, where they're now becoming powerful players on a global basis. For they regard aviation and tourism as not just an important industry, but as a key driver of economic strategy for growth. And probably no better example than Dubai. In 2000, Dubai Airport ranked number 99 in the world in terms of international passenger numbers, with 12 million international passengers. Heathrow was number 1 and has been number 1 for many years. It had 54. Last year, Dubai ranked number 2 in the world, behind Heathrow, still in number 1. But it has overtaken the global hubs of Paris, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Singapore. And it's projected that by 2020, aviation will account for about 22% of employment and 32% of GDP in Dubai. And yet the coalition government has adopted an anti-aviation policy from the outset. The government scrapped plans for a third runway when they came into power. The Prime Minister argued before the election that scrapping a third runway at Heathrow would help in the battle against climate change. Yeah, right. Only a politician could translate a lack of policy and a lack of ambition into something positive. Since I joined this debate on the third runway, China has built more than 50 new airports. Airports, not runways, and plans to build a further 50 before the end of this decade. Indeed, China's new Beijing airport was recently approved by the State Council. This new airport will be constructed with a total investment of over 110 billion US dollars and is scheduled for completion in 2018. Phase 1 will have 4 runways, will be constructed for 72 million passengers and over 620,000 aircraft movements. Britain should be at the forefront of capturing high-growth markets like China, India, and Brazil, and with their rising middle classes, as you've heard already. They're keen to explore the world, and they're keen to visit us and spend their money here. The government should therefore commit to a tourist strategy that eliminates APD, reforms the visa system, and increases airport capacity where it is most needed. Now, the Games showed one of London's business main strengths, their resilience and adaptability to changing circumstances. And the experience provided transport and other planning authorities with a workable model for forecasting traffic flows and demand for future events, which should be used to improve the daily management of a busy city like London. We at the London Chamber believe that investment in infrastructure is essential to the growth of the UK economy and is also essential for tourists to our capital city and the rest of the country. Today, we are 15 days away from the comprehensive spending review, where we will learn the government's departmental spending plans for 2015 to 2016. Now, it's been well documented that the unring-fenced departments have been told to find a 10% saving from their budgets. At the London Chamber, we are concerned about what this will mean for transport investment in London. we have been alarmed to note reports that Transport for London could be subject to swinging cuts in the upcoming comprehensive spending review. The success of the London economy, and therefore the UK economy, is heavily dependent on the capital's transport infrastructure. It needs to be of the highest quality to fight off growing international competition. It would be ill-advised to cut spending at a time when we should be investing more, not less. Now, while we realise that the Chancellor faces political pressures and demands from all parts of the UK, Mr. Osborne must concentrate on what is best for the economy as a whole. And the facts are clear. Anything that harms the London economy directly harms the UK economy. London population grew by 1 million between 2001 and 2011, reaching 8.2 million, and will reach 9 million by 2018 and 10 million by 2031. The population growth presents a massive economic opportunity for the country. London's gross value added per head is 71% ahead of the UK average, but it requires investment to unlock that potential. And this is not just about London. If you think back to the preparations for the Games, one area that was a major concern was whether public transport in the capital would be able to cope during the Games period. It coped, and it coped brilliantly, thanks to the strategic planning by Transport for London and the Department for Transport teams. A record of more than 4.5 million people used the tube on the 7th of August last year. And according to TfL, they carried over 60 million passengers on the tube, 30% more than usual, and more than any time in the 149-year history of the tube. Can you imagine the negative media coverage we would have seen across the world if our transport system had buckled under pressure? Any decision to cut investment in London's transport would therefore be a major own goal. We'll be making that point very clear with our Grow London campaign, which is designed to make the following points to the Chancellor over the next 15 days. Now, if you've travelled by tube through Westminster, Waterloo, Bank, or any of the main underground stations over the past few weeks, you may have seen London Chamber's campaign called Grow London, Tell George. We are urging Chancellor Osborne to protect spending in London's transport infrastructure. We have earmarked 5 projects which we believe require particular attention in the form of investment. They are the extension of the Northern Line, an upgrade of the Piccadilly Line, the redevelopment of Euston Station, Crossrail 2, and a new Thames Bridge in East London. All essential infrastructure needs for those living, for those working, for those travelling through London, and for those visiting this fantastic city. So not only must the Chancellor maintain investment in London on the 26th of June, he must commit to a funding package that allows the UK's economic powerhouse to plan for the long term. And look at one of London's main rivals, Paris. The French Prime Minister has just announced a transport investment package for Paris all the way up to 2030. So London at present has a funding deal up until 2015, compared to Paris having one up to 2030. So if you're looking to invest somewhere in Europe, if you're looking to invest in job creation, if you're looking to invest in tourism, where would you pick? I believe it is most important that we sell the UK internationally. And thinking beyond tourism, UK contractors and suppliers' exemplary performance in delivering the Games on time and on budget have opened up many trade and inward investment opportunities. And the decision to relax restrictions on firms' ability to promote their involvement in the Games is a welcome one. Now we need to capitalize on this. I recently led a London Chamber trade mission to Qatar. As you know, they will host the FIFA World Cup in 2022. And it's essential that the government delivers an export strategy that allows the UK and all of our firms to be at the front line for contracts that deliver big sporting events like these in the future, building on the fantastic success of everybody's participation in the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. This has been a unique multi-billion marketing campaign for the UK, and the opportunity to maximize our exports, our inward investment, and our tourism must not be missed. Working together, we can ensure that the positivism generated by the Games translates into growth, jobs, and that the economic legacy of the Games is secured. Thank you very much. Now, I'm conscious we always try to leave on time and arrive early, but I am told I have a couple of minutes if there are any questions that people would like to ask me. So are there any questions from the audience?
Hello?
Yes?
I'm from Plymouth. We've just lost our airport. You talked a lot about London, and London is clearly a driver for the economy, for our tourism. But if you look at the way people visit our country, they come from Australia, Brazil, America, Russia, China, where a trip of 250 miles is no distance at all. Are we doing enough to support our regional air links? And how much of that is government and how much of that is the industry understanding that we need to somehow maintain some of those regional links?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we need a combination of both. Regional airports play a huge part in the economic growth and the economic strength of the country. However, if we're looking to target growth markets, and these are markets that have typically developed in recent years, we need to serve them from a hub airport because it's unlikely that a regional airport will be able to support direct flights to many of these destinations. And the evidence is very clear. If you take Heathrow, Heathrow is one of the most expensive airports in the UK, if not the most expensive airport in the UK. And I will knock it in terms of its costs because the costs are outrageous. We do, however, need to recognise that it is a good airport and is incredibly important to the UK economy. But Heathrow offers services to 60 destinations that are not served from any other airport in the UK, and these are primarily long-haul destinations. And the reason Heathrow can do that is because Heathrow is a hub airport, where it takes the demand that exists on a local basis and combines that with traffic from other destinations, transfer traffic. And that transfer traffic is critical to providing an extensive network of long-haul destinations for the UK. Over time, as markets grow, I think more and more regional airports can support destinations in their own right. But if we want to look at expanding links to countries like China, the only realistic opportunity for us is to serve those from a hub airport. And I'm delighted that British Airways is delivering on its commitment to increase services to China with the launch of Chengdu, Sichuan province in September of this year. But there is a role for regional airports and there is a role for a national hub airport, and we should not lose sight of that. Heathrow is a very important piece of national infrastructure. We take it for granted. It is number one in the world in terms of international traffic. It will be overtaken by Dubai probably next year or 2015 at the latest. And 10 years from now, if we don't do something to address capacity, we will look back and we will question why we allowed it to happen. So let's learn from past experience and let's make sure that this country continues to have world-class transport infrastructure and not look backwards and rely on what we've done in the past. Thank you. I don't see any other questions, so can I thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I wish all of you the very best in the rest of 2013, and build on the enthusiasm that Andrew Sentence has demonstrated in his performance. I will, however, for Andrew's benefit, quote George Bernard Shaw again, and he said, if all economists in the world were laid end to end, they would not reach a conclusion. Thank you very much.